there's a lot of pride in what I do back on the farm. You know, my great-granddad, who was original partners with my granddad, which makes me fourth generation, he wasn't in it long, but he was a big part of my granddad getting started. You know, so there's a lot of pride with it. You know, I certainly wouldn't have wanted to do anything else because of the pride that I had in the family business. I feel like my sons, at least one, if not both, will kind of be that way. It's just hard to say. They're 9 and 11, so you never know. But of course, right now they both say they're going to work on the farm, but one of them says he wants to shoot birds. That's going to be his job, and the other one is going to drive the feed truck. And I hate to break their heart, but that's not what they're going to be doing.
When you tour the farm and you really grasp it and you see it when the hatchery's going and we're fully staffed and the air freight department moving, and there's just so much energy and excitement here, and it's just an incredible experience to learn about it.
My father, back in 1949, got out of the Air Force and got a veteran's loan to terrace for the Agriculture department, bought bulldozers and things. He was cleaning out some old cattle ponds, and he noticed these minnows in those cattle ponds. Well, he started catching them before he just killed them by draining the water, and was selling them. And he decided he wanted to try to raise some, so he and his brothers in Yazoo City, Mississippi built their first minnow ponds. But the demand for bait just exploded. Well, he was having to supplement what little customers he had with wild bait that he would go around the country and buy from these rivermen that were catching them wild. So he bought some from a gentleman right across the road from us today that he trapped them in his rice field. They'd come out of Biomeda. And he took them back to Memphis and sold them, and just said, that's the hardest, best bait I've handled from all over the country. So he didn't know whether it was the latitude, longitude, soil type, water type, or why these, or the species, or why these fish did so well. So he came back and visited with the man, and he bought some more. He bought the property right across the road from him, first 800 acres, and he started raising those minnows. And from there, it just went all the way to 7,000 acres at one time. And then as these core lakes got older, the fishing populations decreased in them, and the fishing started falling off. Well, we pulled back to about 3,500 acres, and that's what we're pretty well farming today.
Kind of my first experiences on the farm were riding around with my granddad and my dad as a kid, but quickly I found out when I turned 12 years old, just kind of like my dad did. He said, when you turn 12 like I did at 12 years old, you're going to start working on the farm, and so I quickly realized that it wasn't all just shooting snakes and frogs. And so I started under the shed. That was kind of my first position for the first 2 to 3 years, 12, 13, 14. Loading fish, grading fish, sweeping up bats, cleaning out bats, putting ice on trucks. When I got big enough to drive a truck at about 14, they'd get me out from under the shed in the afternoons, and I'd go put out fertilizer and put out lime, and I thought I was hot stuff then, you know, driving a truck 3 times my age, and old beat up trucks and cab overs with no power steering. And so that was kind of my first shot at it, and I still thought that was fun and cool. And at 15, I started working on the seine crew. He moved me out from under the shed, and so kind of got the experience at seining fish and harvesting the fish, and started driving trucks, bringing them from the seine crew to the shed. And you know, my freshman year, I remember my dad asking me, you know, what are your plans? You know, are you going to come back? You know, at the time, I didn't think there was anything else in the world to do, but so yes, I told him I was coming back, and went to U of A Fayetteville and got an ag business degree, And then my junior year, I think he asked me again, "Are you still coming back?" You know, because he just wanted to make a future plan, and we were at the point where we needed to grow. What we really needed to do that was we needed more fish, which meant more brood stock, more acreage, more men for our matting process, our hatching process, and it was just going to be really tough. So he knew that there was plenty of research out there showing that a hatchery was, hatching shiners in a hatchery was possible. I graduated in '98 and came back in that fall. We built a building, and me and one other guy started plumbing, and for 4 straight months all we did was plumb a building and put in tanks and all that, and by springtime we had a hatchery built. This is our hatchery that operates in April and May, and we produce for golden shiners, produce around 1.3 billion head is our capability for a 4 to 6 week period. We also produce our goldfish and black salties in this facility here, and what you see behind me are our hatching tanks. And these hatching tanks, we have 180 of those, and we try to average around 2 million to 2.5 million head per tank, you know, per day. So, you know, the facility you see behind me can house up to 350 million fish at any point in time, depending on how we're using these tanks and how many eggs we try to put per tank and that type of thing. But all the fish that we sell in a 12-month period are all hatched in April and May in a 6-week period. So we've got to have fish that are, you know, from the small size of our market to the large size of our market 12 months out of the year. And even though they're all hatched at one time pretty much throughout the year. So once the hatchery was built, we knew that we were getting approximately 2% survival on all these eggs. And then through the hatchery, we were getting an easy 98, 99% survival. So just that revolutionized our farm just overnight. Then soon after that, we hired a guy to run the hatchery once we kind of perfected that. And then I started working on the air freight system. And so there are a lot of fish are shipped overnight, a lot of ornamentals, but a lot of those ornamentals, there's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 fish in a box. So it's pretty easy. Well, we needed to be able to ship pounds of fish in a box at a rate they would survive 24 hours or more, and then at a cost that they would be marketable. Through the air freight system, we've kind of revolutionized the way minnows are sent across the country. We just send them direct overnight FedEx now, and so not only to bait shops, but to John Doe homeowner with a pond in his backyard that wants to feed his fish, John Doe homeowner that has a tank in his garage and he fishes every weekend, or he's retired and fishes every day and needs lots of minnows. We ship to research facilities at universities and zoos, aquariums, wildlife rehabilitation centers. So that allows us to ship all over the country to a lot of different places, so it's really opened up our customer base. One of the most innovative products we have, in terms, if you can call it product, would be the black salty.
At one time when the markets were really in the doldrums, we decided to come up with a new product that was acceptable all over the country. Everywhere that would accept the goldfish, this product is a goldfish, but it's selectively bred to withstand salt water. And we were thinking about getting into the saltwater market. But they actually started catching on in freshwater. And 95% of them now are sold in freshwater for trotline bait and for striped bass and for largemouth bass. Even people are catching crappie on them right now.
As far as we know, it's the only patented, trademarked fish on the market, especially used for bait. So back in the early 2000s, while we had the hatchery kind of at its early stages, Dad and I went offshore fishing, decided, hey, we've got to be able to raise some bait for the offshore market. So we came back to the hatchery and started playing with some fish, different fish, and doing some selective breeding and all that, and developed a fish that's just super tough, saltwater tolerant, and makes a wonderful saltwater bait, but also a very, very tough freshwater bait. Aquaculture is a lot like row crops or even ranching. If you don't take care of the land and the water, you're dead. So a lot of the conservation efforts on our part are, you know, we drain ponds only when necessary. When we do, we pump the water to the adjacent ponds and let it gravity flow back. And other than a large rain event, we don't release water. We're not allowed to use off-farm surface water because of our inspections, state national inspections. So, you know, we've got filters and pumps, and we pump water over and over and over from pond to pond to pond as much as we can. We try to never let it go, so therefore we're using less groundwater. That's one of the biggest conservation efforts we do. You know, we've got a lot of biosecurity things in place because of the fact we don't need off-farm fish coming in. We don't need off-farm invasive plants coming in. You know, and all that is a big part of our conservation efforts.
So we're here in Lonoke standing in front of our business academy, which is part of our high school. And Jamie and I ran the millage campaign last year to raise $12 million for our local school district to build an agricultural-based business academy. It's a partnership with Arkansas State University through BB, and we're going to be teaching courses as in diesel mechanics, which is tractor repair, agricultural classes where they actually teach the students to, you know, plant row crops, what chemicals they use, what types of tractors you use for what types of crops. You're also going to find industrial technology classes. There's going to be an aquaculture classes, which is specifically based towards fish farming, which is our specialty. And the awesome thing about this business academy is it's going to be taught by our local farmers. And our school district got a waiver from the state to allow us to have our farmers and our local business leaders come in and help support these classes. So Lonoke, being a rural community, is a great match for an agricultural-based school. And by teaching these kids these agricultural classes, we'll be able to stimulate our own economy and provide an education for our kids to actually stay in Lonoke and work in Lonoke and the surrounding counties within Arkansas. Well, I didn't grow up on a farm, and so when we first got married, Jamie drove me out to the farm and said, "This is where I want to live." And I think it was pretty much went with the territory, and in all honesty, I love it. The sunsets are incredible. The adventures the kids have just in the backyard, swimming in minnow ponds and shooting snakes and learning how to fish. I mean, it's a dream for any kid, and it's such an honor to be a part of that and really see their tradition continue just through their eyes and how much they adore Jamie and learning what he loves to do, but it's really a dream out here, living out here.
My hope for the future is, number one, to stay in the business, stay profitable, have it here for the 5th generation. But by doing that, we're going to have to become more innovative. We're going to have to continue to diversify. We, have got to continue to go direct. No doubt, the day of the wholesale market being something with longevity is just not there anymore. So we have to continue to go direct, and we're constantly fighting regulations. Whether it be with Department of Transportation, transport fish across state lines, or whether it be with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the bird depredation issues we have. So the hopes for the future is to be able to continue to do that. Hopefully have a great business environment, not only in the state but in the country for agriculture and aquaculture to continue to grow, and to have a 5th generation be able to step in one day and take over.